Fantasy Springs is one of the latest major additions to what many consider the world's greatest theme park, Tokyo DisneySea. This expansion introduced never-before-seen attractions in areas themed around Frozen, Peter Pan, and Tangled, and towering over it all is the Fantasy Springs Hotel, a luxury, park-integrated resort. Boasted as the finest accommodation at the Tokyo Disney Resort, it naturally comes with a fairly steep price tag, with rooms reaching over 400,000 yen or $2,635 per night. And we just so happen to have experienced it ourselves. With Disney's decades of expertise in themed hospitality and its prime location within one of the world's most celebrated theme parks, the Fantasy Springs Hotel has a lot to live up to. So let's take a closer look at what a stay in one of Disney's newest luxury hotels offers, discover what is inside this ultra-exclusive experience, and most importantly, determine if a stay here truly justifies the cost. This is the Fantasy Springs Hotel at Tokyo DisneySea. Fantasy Springs, along with the Fantasy Springs Hotel, has been in development for quite some time, with an intriguing history behind it. Back in 2015, Tokyo DisneySea announced plans for a new Scandinavia port, inspired by the world of Frozen, to be built on an empty expansion plot in the park's upper left corner. However, these plans were eventually put on hold as the focus shifted to Tokyo Disneyland's Fantasyland expansion, which ultimately brought Beauty and the Beast to the park. It wasn't until June 14, 2018 that the Frozen concept resurfaced, this time as part of a much larger expansion, including lands based on Peter Pan and Tangled, along with a new park-integrated luxury hotel. This hotel generated significant excitement. Tokyo DisneySea is one of the few Disney parks worldwide to already feature a park-integrated hotel, the renowned Hotel Miracosta. Or Miracosta, it depends on the accent. This grand resort flanks much of the park's entrance, offering exclusive views of Tokyo DisneySea and its iconic centerpiece, Mount Prometheus. Widely considered one of the best hotels Disney has ever built, the anticipation for this new park-integrated hotel was high, especially with 2 decades of experience and advancements behind it. It's no surprise that guests were eager to see how it would compare. Whilst the expansion was delayed several times due to the COVID-19 pandemic, after a short soft opening period, the Fantasy Springs Hotel opened alongside Fantasy Springs on June 6, 2024. Which brings us to our visit to the Fantasy Springs Hotel, and by extension, the Tokyo Disney Resort. Check-in for the Fantasy Springs Hotel opens at 3 p.m, and let me just tell you that they are very strict about who they let into this hotel. Got a reservation and rock up too early? You can't get in. You want to just check it out? You can't get in. Got a friend who is staying in the hotel and you want to meet them in the lobby? You can't get in. All of this is to say that unless you have a reservation and it's the day of your check-in and it's past 3 p.m, they won't even let you near the hotel without a keycard. Because of this, when you do finally get in, I must admit you feel pretty special. Now, if you haven't secured a reservation, then good luck getting in, because securing a booking here is extremely difficult, but we will get into that later. We arrived, like most people, to the resort via train, taking the KO line from Tokyo Station to Miami. You'll know you've arrived at the train station as it plays cute little jingles based on the new attractions at Fantasy Springs. I really like this touch, and I don't know, it's just a nice introduction to the resort. We arrived at the resort at around 2 p.m, and knowing how strict they are about access, we decided to use the free baggage drop service at the Tokyo Disney Welcome Center just outside of Miami train station to kill a bit of time and so that we could just wander around the resort without our bags. If you're staying on property, we'd highly recommend utilizing this service, though we're still not sure whether they're meant to be delivered straight to your room or to the hotel bell desk because we got some mixed messaging, but again, more on that later. Now, compared to where you arrive at the Tokyo Disney Resort via train, The Fantasy Springs Hotel is essentially on the exact opposite side of the resort. Now, thankfully, Disney does provide a monorail, but unlike most other resorts, this service isn't complimentary and does require a paid fare. The monorail at the time of our visit cost 300 yen for one trip or 700 yen for a one-day pass. We'd recommend grabbing the day pass on your day of arrival because chances are you're going to be heading out again anyway. It's also a great way to start your trip because it takes you past Tokyo Disneyland and the other resorts, which really builds that excitement that you're there. After exploring Ikspiari for a little, Tokyo Disney's equivalent shopping district to downtown Disney or Disney Springs, we decided we had killed enough time to start making our way to the hotel on the monorail. After a brief stop at Tokyo Disneyland, you'll shortly arrive at Resort Station, home to the Fantasy Springs Hotel. And also the Toy Story Hotel and a bunch of other third-party Good Neighbor hotels. As almost all of these hotels also open their check-in at 3 p.m, the monorail was pretty crammed, but after getting off and descending the stairs at the station, those crowds thinned out pretty quickly. Down here, things start to feel real, as you're right next to the hotel's exclusive entrance to Fantasy Springs, and by extension, Tokyo DisneySea. To the left of this entrance is a small staircase which will take you directly to the entrance of the Fantasy Springs Hotel. To our surprise, almost nobody in that bulk of people from the monorail were headed that way, and instead a vast majority were dividing off towards either the Toy Story Hotel or the other Good Neighbors. Ascending the stairs next to the entrance, you're immediately greeted by a cast member holding a clipboard with a paper printout of every single person arriving at the hotel that day. Our name was pretty easy for the cast member to spot in the list, as we were the very small minority of foreigners staying there that night. After confirming that we were, in fact, meant to be there, we were officially welcomed to the Fantasy Springs Hotel. Entering into the hotel for the first time could only be described as something really special. You're immediately enveloped by gleaming polished marble, intricate murals, and elegant hanging glass sculptures, all set against the stunning centerpiece of a soaring, multi-story atrium whose views extend to the breathtaking scenery of Fantasy Springs, creating an unforgettable first impression. Luke and I literally turned to each other, jaws agape, giddy at the prospect that this, one of the most exclusive theme park hotels in the world, would be our home for one night. And yes, you heard that right. Aside from a certain space-themed hotel that closed in the last year, this might just be the most exclusive theme park hotel in the world, because good luck getting a reservation here, as you either have to be extremely lucky or extremely rich. To understand why that is, we need to talk a little bit about the Fantasy Springs Hotel itself. While it's officially considered a single hotel, it's actually divided into two distinct sections, the Grand Chateau and the Fantasy Chateau. The Fantasy Chateau is the standard deluxe Disney hotel affair. It's what many have come to expect when staying on property at a Disney resort, with spacious rooms, well-appointed bathrooms, charming furnishings, and that particular Disney touch, with the exception of a few major facilities here. The Grand Chateau is a completely different story though. Advertised as Disney's first luxury offering and the finest stay on all of Tokyo Disney property, this section of the hotel aims to really elevate the resort experience. The Grand Chateau is primarily made up of suites with balconies overlooking Fantasy Springs, an exclusive restaurant and park entrance, and I assume many more things. However, we wouldn't know because these rooms start at an eye-watering 300,000 yen, or $2,030 per night. Now, these rooms are relatively easy to come by. Whenever we were looking for a room at this hotel, this option was available to us, but at a slightly higher cost, I assume because of the demand, often averaging at around 350,000 yen per night, or $2,292. This is more expensive than the Star Cruiser on a per-night basis, just for reference. As you can imagine, we weren't particularly keen to pay this sort of money, so our next option was to wait for an available room in the Fantasy Chateau. Luke and I looked at the reservation website every day, multiple times a day, for close to 4 months, and only saw availability for one of the 4 days of our visit once. Unless you get in at the absolute start when reservations just open, your chance of staying here is extremely slim. Now, after scouring the website, understanding trends in the software, and even investigating the terms and services of the reservations, we did eventually figure out a trick that helped us secure a room, but it does demand a lot of time and is a fair bit to get into, so I'll save that for the end of the video for those looking to stay here. Outside of that, it's surprising that demand is so high here, because on average, this is the most expensive hotel on Tokyo Disney property. Although the Fantasy Springs Hotel and the Miracosta share the same base price at 63,500 yen, Fantasy Springs reaches a much higher price ceiling thanks to the Grand Chateau. Also, because of the immense demand, you can imagine that the base price is fairly elusive. Trust us when we say that we wish we only paid that much. But enough of all that. We made it. We were at the Fantasy Springs Hotel, and we had the opportunity to experience it firsthand. With the lobby vaunting such a grand introduction, we were eager to experience what the rest of the hotel had to offer. Whilst this area seems like a natural fit for a check-in desk, the actual check-in happens in a smaller support building just off to the left of this main atrium. Being Tokyo Disney, it was no surprise that we were immediately greeted by a line to check in, but thankfully this only took about 5 minutes to get through. However, I wouldn't want to be here when this is jammed because check-in wasn't exactly the speediest process. As we got to the end of the queue, the cast correctly identified that we were foreigners, and after confirming that we spoke English, sent us to a dedicated English cast member to check in. After paying off the remainder of our stay, as we only placed a deposit, they went through and outlined all the rules and benefits when staying at the Fantasy Springs Hotel. For those not aware, the biggest benefit to staying here is that it allows you to purchase an exclusive one-day passport to Tokyo DisneySea that includes unlimited access to Fantasy Springs and all of its major attractions. But don't be confused, this isn't included. You can't even purchase it at check-in when you finish paying for your reservation, despite them telling you all about it. If you want this passport, you need to purchase it from the bell desk back in the atrium. After explaining all of this, they handed us our room key and our included Happy 15 early access to the parks, and sent us on our way. Eager to check out our room, we decided to head straight there. We purchased an entrance-side superior room. Not that we had much choice, which was located on level 4 in the Fantasy Chateau. Something to note is that all of the Fantasy Chateau rooms are actually a fair distance away from the central atrium where you enter the hotel. You walk past a little convenience store and down a rather long hallway until you reach another central atrium, this time with what appears to be a money tree and a faux floral peacock as its centerpieces. Despite being a huge space that is immensely impressive, there is oddly nothing here. It's just guest rooms, and as we would come to find out, this would become a common theme when exploring the hotel. Now, our room was on level 4, but double that and you get level 8, the sponsor of today's video. These reviews see us traveling all over the world, so reliable and quality luggage is a must. That's why we're excited to be partnering with level 8 for today's video. Level 8 specializes in stylish, lightweight luggage perfect for a wide range of travel. Since we like to pack light, the textured luggage carry-on is the perfect companion for a weekend away. With a sleek design, TSA-approved locks, and enough space to store all your most important belongings, like your Who Wants to Be a Millionaire Play It hat, your Who Wants to Be a Millionaire Play It polo shirt, and your picture of Michael Eisner, former CEO of Disney when Who Wants to Be a Millionaire Play It debuted, doing the A pose. These silent 360-degree wheels are impeccably smooth and glide along the pavement. I actually use the case as a dolly to get this shot just to show you how steady it rolls. Now, if you're a business traveler, the Grace expandable carry-on is a game changer. The front pocket allows for secure storage and easy access to your laptop, notes, and much more. Don't roll up to airport security and then scramble to find your gear when they start yelling at you. Instead, quickly whip out your laptop and send it on its way. No yelling required. If you're looking at your old bags, stressing that they might be on their last legs, perhaps it's time to check out Level 8 and use code ReviewTime10 to get 10% off. Not only will you be able to transport your Who Wants to Be a Millionaire Play It goods in style, but you'll also be supporting future reviews like this one. Level 8 are frequently running promotions such as the current Black Friday and Cyber Monday promotion happening right now. But if you happen to have missed out, our code ReviewTime10 has no expiry. Now is the perfect time to upgrade your travel gear. Cheers Level 8, and back to the video. This finally brings us to our room, and frankly, we have no complaints here. This is your standard deluxe Disney hotel room, a tried and tested formula used all around the world. Compared to almost all other hotels we stayed at in Japan, the space that Disney provides you with here feels like an immense luxury in itself. The room comes with plenty of cupboard space, a washroom basin separating the gigantic shower and bath and the toilet, plenty of areas to just vibe out alongside two large beds that might just be the most comfortable hotel beds we've slept on in years. On top of all of that, they provided you with everything you might need whilst traveling, such as slippers, pajamas, robes, razors, toothbrushes, and more, all branded to the Fantasy Springs Hotel. And yes, we did take everything we were legally allowed to. If anybody wants a Fantasy Springs Hotel branded toothbrush, hit me up. Disney also has done a great job hiding little details and decorations throughout the room that plays into the storytelling element of Fantasy Springs, with a majority of these being themed to Tangled, followed by, surprisingly, Princess and the Frog. It's odd because Princess and the Frog has next to no presence at the Tokyo Disney Resort. I really enjoy that movie and adore the music, so seeing this was a great surprise, but could this be hinting to some future additions coming to the resort? Perhaps a certain mountain? Probably not, it's likely just a stylistic choice, but I like it, it's nice. Now before we could truly settle in, there was one small issue. We didn't have our bags yet. Both Luke and I remember them mentioning at the Welcome Center that they'd arrive at our hotel at 4 p.m. and thought that they had mentioned that they would arrive to our room. But now with that time having come and gone, we were kind of second-guessing ourselves. This wasn't a huge issue though, because we had plans to film the entire hotel, so needed to go exploring anyway. So it was back to the bell desk. It was on this walk back to this central atrium that the abnormalities of the Fantasy Springs Hotel really started to become apparent. This is, by Disney's own measure, a deluxe level hotel. You'd expect it to have the same level of inclusion, services, and amenities as all of the others that share the same tier, but this isn't the case. The Fantasy Springs Hotel has no pool, no spa, no gym, no kids club, no dedicated bar space, or really anything more than the bare minimum of what is necessary to operate a hotel. The shop we mentioned earlier, which was in the walkway between the Fantasy Chateau and the central atrium, is more of a convenience store than a true Disney store. It's very cheap, and many of the items are affordable, as we've come to expect from Japan, but you can't purchase any Tokyo Disney-specific products. If you want Fantasy Springs Hotel merchandise, then you actually need to purchase a ticket to Tokyo DisneySea, as that merchandise is located in the park at the Fantasy Springs store at the base of the hotel. Maybe I'm overreacting, but this kind of blew my mind. What this means is that those who are in the park and not in the hotel can browse and purchase Fantasy Springs Hotel merchandise, but those who are in the hotel can't do the same thing unless they go into the park. I don't know. Not every guest can buy all of these merchandise items, as for some, you actually have to prove that you actually stayed here. But it's just very strange that this hyper-restrictive hotel just has merchandise available in the park. It's also kind of a tease that from the hotel, you can see the store. The store is actually in the hotel. It's connected to the bottom floor of the hotel, but you just can't get there. It's weird. But that isn't where the strangeness ends. In the Grand Atrium, you probably noticed a bunch of areas to vibe out and relax. This is not the hotel lobby and is in fact an exclusive cafe for hotel guests known as the Grand Paradise Lounge. This place serves some bizarre food options with eye-watering prices compared to everywhere else at the Tokyo Disney Resort. We wanted to pop in for a drink and look out over Fantasy Springs, but we didn't have a required reservation, and looking at the menu, there was no obvious cocktails or beers, and instead, mostly focused on 3,000 yen slices of cake. Around this Grand Atrium is especially strange. There are lots of areas within the Fantasy Springs Hotel that are literal liminal spaces, serving no purpose other than to act as an area to get from one place to another. But some of these just kind of lead to nowhere. Dead ends with dimly lit recesses populated sparsely with furniture that seems to fill space more than serve any practical purpose. It feels like at some stage these were arteries connecting the services and facilities of a far more ambitious hotel, and for whatever reason they were removed late into development without changing up these walkways. Also, I find it ironic that similarly in the atrium is a literal paywall separating the Grand Chateau from the rest of the guests. There's just a big closed door which above it says Grand Chateau. Now, we have a theory that the reason why this hotel feels so bare bones is because at the start of the project, both chateaus were meant to share each other's space and amenities, but again, late in development, it was decided to just disconnect them completely to justify a more exclusive experience for those paying extra. For example, both wings of the Fantasy Springs Hotel combined have the same number of dining options as the Hotel Miracosta, with one buffet, one sit-down, and one lounge. But here, the sit-down is exclusive for Grand Chateau guests, and the furniture suspiciously doesn't seem to fill the space. The only restaurant available to us was the Fantasy Springs restaurant, available exclusive to guests staying either on site or those with vacation packages. This restaurant is a buffet that is fine, but no better than the other buffets in the resort, such as the Crystal Palace, which was around half the cost before its recent closure for refurbishment. You could dine at the Fantasy Springs restaurant, or you could buy 8 of these surprisingly good long pizzas from Zambini Brothers Restaurante inside Tokyo DisneySea. I know which one I'd pick. But the strangest addition to the hotel has to be the Rose Garden. Situated between the towers of the Fantasy Springs Hotel is a lush garden complete with some beautiful Beauty and the Beast rockwork, and that's all it is. It's a walkway from the lobby to the rockwork and back. Our feeling is that this originally was meant to be the location of a pool or something similar, and this just happened to be the final option. The space here is actually larger than the Ambassador Hotel's pool area, another hotel on Tokyo Disney property. But what is especially strange is that the Fantasy Chateau has next to no Beauty and the Beast presence, whilst the Grand Chateau seems to be themed predominantly around Beauty and the Beast. Another hint that perhaps at one stage the Grand Chateau and Fantasy Chateau were meant to be more connected. Hell, even in the original announcement, the Grand Chateau was referred to as a wing of the hotel, and the details from the said announcement show it all as one hotel with integrated facilities. But note, this information is subject to change. But arguably, the best inclusion for the hotel is the balcony that looks out over Fantasy Springs itself. This is probably the only way you will actually see the namesake land of the park if you are staying in the Fantasy Chateau, as park view rooms are severely limited and are almost exclusive for the Grand Chateau. This area would be an excellent and unique spot to watch the fireworks, and it's just a great place to spend some time relaxing away from the hustle and bustle of Tokyo DisneySea. But unfortunately, there are no seats here, which is kind of a bummer, but at least the vibes are immaculate. Now, if the hotel offers barely any amenities or facilities, why does it exist? Well, as we mentioned before, this hotel is the only way to get unlimited access to Fantasy Springs and its attractions. For a regular guest, if you want to get into Fantasy Springs, you need to arrive at the park very early, sometimes up to a few hours before the official park opens. Scan into the park and immediately look down at your phone and fight the system to receive a free standby pass for one of the 4 attractions, or pay $20 to skip the line for a ride. Without one of these passes, you will not even be allowed to enter Fantasy Springs. And even if you do get one, getting entry for all 4 attractions in a single day is almost impossible. For example, on our second day at Tokyo DisneySea, when we stayed off property, we arrived an hour before the park opened and got in line. They started letting guests into the park 30 minutes before the park was officially meant to open, and about 5 minutes later, they announced that Elsa and Anna's Frozen Journey had already sold out of premiere passes for the day. We still wouldn't have gotten into the park for another 25 minutes. If we did this both days, it would have meant that I would have never been able to experience this attraction, which was maybe one of the favorites from my entire trip. If you're staying on site at the Fantasy Springs Hotel, you can buy an exclusive ticket where for 22,000 yen, you can not only guarantee entrance to Fantasy Springs anytime you want, but it will also let you skip the lines on every ride in the land an unlimited amount of times. So to guarantee the best access to the brand new and admittedly incredible Fantasy Springs, you not only need to buy a 10,000 yen Tokyo DisneySea ticket, but actually spend a minimum of 65,000 yen for a night's accommodation, and then an additional 12,000 yen for this Fantasy Springs Magic ticket. But hey, at least you get to enter the park via the exclusive entrance for the hotel, right? Just not the exclusive Grand Chateau entrance that's actually inside the park, but instead a bizarrely huge entrance that requires you to walk outside the hotel towards the monorail station before doubling back towards Tokyo DisneySea. Which ultimately brings us to whether it's all worth it. For our Fantasy Chateau Hotel Entrance Side Superior room, we spent 81,500 yen for 2 people, with an additional 48,800 yen for 2 DisneySea tickets with Fantasy Springs Magic. In total, we paid 130,300 yen for 2 people to experience Fantasy Springs in its entirety for a single day. On top of this, you've also got to consider the work we put in to actually secure this room. When looking at the terms and conditions, we discovered that Tokyo Disney allows full refunds up to 15 days out from the date of booking. We realized that almost all hotels were completely booked out 30 days in advance across multiple dates, but would gradually become more available leading up to this 15-day cutoff. What I believe is happening here is that most people are booking 3 to 4 different options, or maybe multiple friends are buying multiple different rooms, and then deciding closer to the date which one they actually want to keep. With this in mind, we refreshed the Tokyo Disney Hotel reservations website constantly for hours leading up to the cutoff, and through either extreme perseverance or luck, secured our room. What we got was our only option in the Fantasy Chateau, and that's the gamble where you really don't have a choice regarding your room. With all of this in mind, this might be the hardest value proposition I've ever had to consider on this channel. And as absurd as it is to say, I think it's worth it. Hear me out on this one. When compared to the US Disney parks, this deal makes sense. Converted to the US dollar and split amongst 2 people, you're looking at $428 per person, which includes 1 night's accommodation, steps away from the park, access to Tokyo DisneySea, and unlimited access to Fantasy Springs and its attractions. The recently announced Lightning Lane Premiere Pass, which gives you priority one-time access to up to 8 attractions at Walt Disney World for a single day, goes up to as much as our stay per person and doesn't even include accommodation or park access. However, within the context of Tokyo Disney, other Japanese theme parks, and even broader Asian destinations, the price is undeniably steep. To make matters worse, the Fantasy Springs Hotel just feels incomplete, as if it relies on the novelty of Fantasy Springs to overshadow its flaws. This raises concerns about its long-term appeal. What happens when Fantasy Springs is no longer the hottest attraction? Even after my stay, I still think I'd prefer the Hotel Miracosta, a hotel I've never actually stayed at, but have just walked through. And that in itself feels like a superior experience. Yet I can't deny that I felt a pang of sadness when I left the Fantasy Springs Hotel. There's a charm to it. The music, the whimsical character motifs, it does feel special. Despite my criticisms, Disney remains a major influence in my life, and part of me is still captivated by its magic. As a critic, it's my job to highlight flaws and manage expectations, and some will enjoy nitpicking the imperfections of this hotel. But as a guest, for one night, it was home. I took note of the missteps, but more than anything, I just wanted to immerse myself in the experience. In the end, the Fantasy Springs Hotel embodies everything that draws me towards Disney. Its charm, its magic, but it also reflects the troubling signs of modern Disney, which increasingly threatens to push me away. For Review Time, I'm Dom. Thanks for watching.